Okay, let's answer some questions from the last market outlook. There are a lot, but many of them repeat. I'd say about 30% are all really centered around tariffs. So I'll try to put a broad answer out when I get to the first one. And then we can skip over many of the questions. First one, you recommended AT&T at 16. Now that it's much pricier around 24, how would you determine a good price to continue selling puts since the downside protection is not as significant? Well, they're well supported at the price they have. They had an excellent quarter. I don't expect that to turn around anytime soon. They are doing all the right things that I think buying at 24 is still buying at a discount to what I think a 1 year price will be. You have 50% return in 1 year. It was about this time last year that I started talking about AT&T, and now they're 24 from 16, 50% return, plus a nice, at that time it was a little over a 6% yield. I think selling $24 puts makes sense. If it peaks down before below 24, you move down, you sell some 23s, you sell some 22s, or you go out to something like July or August and you sell $26 or $27 puts. This story is not over. It's a network. It's a network. Their partnership with BlackRock in the infrastructure for what BlackRock is calling their infrastructure play has them laying the fiber, and AT&T, it's a joint venture, AT&T being the first customer to it. Well, that takes out a whole bunch of capital costs. A strategy to pay down debt. I don't know. There's a lot to like about how they're setting up their network as well, using ORAN. I seem to think this story continues. Interested in hearing your thought process, since a headwind can show up overnight. Yeah, headwinds can show up. There's nothing you can do about that. It is more likely that tomorrow will be a normal day than a headwind showing up. Headwinds do show up, but look, we had headwinds show up. AT&T was below 22 to start the year and hanging out there, and then well over 24 after earnings, and then you had a bit of an NVIDIA scare. It pulled back a bit and went right back up. Then you had the tariff scares and it pulled back, and now it's right back up again. Sure, there's going to be headwinds, but anything that pushes it down just represents another buying opportunity. Besides, let's just think about a timeline. You're here and you're thinking, let's say end of 2026. So you're thinking, well, 1 month is gone, a 23-month holding period. I seem to think north of 30, pushing maybe $40 by that point. And it is $24 today. And you're getting a nice dividend yield over those 2 periods of time at 24. You're about 5% dividend yield over that period of time. What does it matter what it does during that period of time? What does it matter if you have a destination in mind? Right, it's the pathway is not that important. You're not trading it; you're investing it. So I don't know that I would pay too much attention to the pathway. It's a strong player. It's a network. It's the largest network in North America. Networks are not going away. Networks are almost utility-like. They're never going away. So I would not worry too much about AT&T. I thought Trudeau's response was level-headed. Yeah, I know you dislike him. Here's the thing with Trudeau. I'm sure if I sat down and talked to him as a human being, I'm sure I'd find out he's probably a decent person to talk to. Maybe, and I do believe this, maybe not I don't know that he'd be able to hold the most intelligent conversations. I don't know that we'd be having discussions of philosophy and meaning of life. I don't know that he's deep enough for that. But for the job that he has, he's incompetent. And his ideology is dangerous to play out, to experiment with at a national level. He's a mimbo, to use a Seinfeld term. Our friendship has strengthened us for the better. Great to hear. We'll have more to say about this a little bit later. Question about duration outlook. Tariffs are here to stay for a while. I don't believe they are. Real GDP growth takes a hit. That's what would happen, yes. Lowering employment, demand, and inflation, leading the Fed to cut, bringing down short-term rates. I'd expect this to ripple into duration as well. So I belong TLT in this scenario in the medium term. Do you think duration will take a hit just in the short term or also in the long term? While I was wrong on duration, I thought TLT would take a hit only because the narrative in the market was inflation, 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 and you couldn't reason with the market. Once they get a hold of a story, they just run with it to extremes. So I thought, well, then that'll just keep going. That narration will keep going, which is why I said if I see it down, I'll buy it. But surprisingly, it was strong. And then it wasn't going after the tariffs were, which is odd. Okay, tariffs on Mexico are canceled, tariffs on Canada canceled. Overnight, TLT took a dump. Why? You're looking at that going, okay. And then came all the way back again today. It's, the rhyme or reason on this one is a difficult one to figure out. It's a longer term holding of mine, so I don't really care. At some point, something is going to happen, and I will be glad that I have duration. So I think of it more as a stabilizing segment of what I hold. You always have to have something that zigs when everything else zags. If the market zags big time, this will zig nicely for me. What do you think of Danielle Smith's stance against the federal government and other provinces? Yeah, she was against cutting off energy supplies to the U.S. I mean, she's a steward of her own province. It would have hurt Alberta very badly. January 15 News. Smith has cautioned Ottawa against blocking energy exports to the U.S. in response to tariffs, calling it an empty threat that would spark a national unity crisis. There's already a national unity crisis when you head out west. The Trudeau government, especially with the carbon tax, especially with the desire to, move to a green future and be less friendly to oil, that's all Alberta. And much of BC, a lot of Saskatchewan with natural gas. I mean, you're basically telling these provinces, suck it up. Too bad. We're over here, way over here in Ottawa, 2,000, 2,500 miles away, and we'll tell you what the right thing. That's not balancing the needs of a country. His father understood, as much as his father was a very strong federalist, he understood regional politics. Trudeau Jr. doesn't. So that's what makes him ineffective and probably really just cements most of the West for the PCs. Let's see. I don't want to read compliments here. Question: could you give us your thoughts on the tariff impact when accounting for changes in currency? So the peso and the Canadian dollar dropped. So let's say that you have I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Let's say you have 125. That $1 US costs $1.25 Canadian, and US says, well, we're going to put a 10% tariff on your product, and the Canadian dollar goes to 1.375. That is a 10% discount. That means $1 US buys 1.375. So you can buy a lot more quantity because maybe something was priced at 125. But now $1 US instead of buying 125 buys 1.375. So you can buy the same quantity and have money left over to pay the tariff coming in. So in US dollars, it doesn't cost anything more because the Canadian dollar weakened. So you can buy the same quantity for fewer US dollars and pay the tariff on the way in, and you're just as good before you started, right? The price level doesn't need to go up, and the exchange rate sort of offset everything. For my work, we'll put out a piece that where the currency up down washes out the majority of the tariff impact. Yeah, we went from I think 136. We were playing around 136, 137 And then when it looked like Trump was going to win and, the belief of tariffs coming in, we started trading around 143 to 144. We sort of drifted to this space over here, but 136.5 to 143.5, it's about 5%, 4%, 5% adjustment, but 25% tariff, you can't offset that. Please don't exclude politics from your discussion. At this point, how can we? There is no U.S. government. There is only Trump. At some point, Congress is going to have to show up. Trump will run out of rope. He can only sign so many executive orders before he's going to need Congress to do things. But right now, Trump is the market. The announcement of the Sovereign Wealth Fund the other day and Howard Lutnick's comment, that should have scared all of you. I don't know why it's not getting more press. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. Howard Lutnick proposed either bribery or extortion when he mentioned an example of how the wealth fund could be used. I heard it, I go, that's extortion. Or if it came from the company, that's bribery. And don't even get me started on the potential of insider trading. This could be the single most profitable sovereign wealth fund in the world by trading against everybody else on information they already know. This is super dangerous. And he said it, and no one picked up on it. By the way, at the end of that press conference, when it was over, did you hear Trump in the background? What did he say? Where's the market at? He's so easy to read. We have no choice but to include politics. I'm sorry about that. Why would the initial reaction on Monday from the exposure to duration not do well? So I did talk about that. I was just anticipating that the narrative momentum that drove duration down would continue on, and everyone would say tariffs, inflationary, and just play the first shot without thinking about play checkers instead of play chess, right? I don't see why investors running high quality cyclical IG bonds. I don't see investors running away. No, but if you're in those bonds, you have a yield, right? If it's a pretty good yield. Let's see. Where's the important point in my life where I'll be going from high school to college? Oh, we have somebody in high school that listens to this. I am impressed. And would like your recommendation from your life experience on paths you wish you would have taken and what you would recommend for someone who wants to have a career in the financial markets. If you're heading to university, I've said this before, relax. You are entering the best 4 years of your life. Have fun. Have fun. You have the rest of your life to plan. Now, that doesn't mean blow off your classes. Do well in your classes. Pick your classes wisely, but relax. You don't have to plan everything out so that you don't have fun. You are entering the best 4 years of your life. Ask anybody who's been to university, high school or university, hands down, it's university. It's not even close. Have fun. Meet people. The people that you meet are going to be, some of them will disappear after graduation, but you'll meet lifelong friends. And during those, it's not high school that you become the person you're going to be. University really changes who you are. I'm pretty sure that if you look at people who go into grade 9 and come out of grade 12, a little bit more mature. But first year university to fourth year university, your personality becomes something. You become the person you're going to be. You gain confidence. You stand taller. You're prouder. You know who you are. No, have fun. Relax. Just relax. There's plenty of life to plan for. Don't miss the fun that happens, and don't miss the friendships and relationships you're going to have in university. Oh, if I could go back, I'd go back to that point in time and do it again. And then again and again. Like Groundhog Day, I'd say, okay, let's do another 4 years. Send me back. Another 4 years. Another 4 years. Fun. Let's see. Let's see. Is there any chance Mexico enters BRICS as a retaliation against the U.S.? Well, you do have to think about that, right? I mean, if you're going to keep, this 28 days, pushing off the tariffs for 28 days, he's not going to put tariffs on Mexico. He's not going to put them on, but to keep that cloud above your head, to always keep that cloud above your head, at some point, the weight of it is just, I don't need this. But yeah, you will drive countries into the arms of other people. If you do it one too many times, you get to the point of, what do I need this for? Let's start looking around. It is a potential. So you can keep your friends close so that they don't make deals with your enemies, or you can, keep threatening your enemies and spitting in their face. What do you think is going to happen, right? Is there a risk to see more countries join BRICS to avoid Trump's tariff? Well, first of all, other than China, Mexico and U.S., I don't see that as real. It's all bluster. He's easy to read. What could be the impact on the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency? Well, to have a reserve currency, you need a deep treasury market. Otherwise, why would I ever hold U.S. dollars? Why would any central bank hold U.S. dollars if there isn't a treasury market? So let's say the U.S. pays off all its debt and it doesn't owe a single penny. It would no longer have reserve currency status. Why? Because there's nothing to put the money in. And I'm certainly not taking on equity risk as a central bank. As a central bank, what I need the currencies in a relationship to the trade that my country does, so I can supply the currency to the banking system, and the banking system can supply it to their customers, businesses that are importing or exporting. But I don't just put dollar bills on a shelf and let them sit there, because every year they're sitting there, I'd lose 2% of its purchasing power. So I need an instrument to put the money in. That's a treasury market. You want reserve currency status, you need a treasury market, which means you need debt. What would threaten the reserve currency? Attempting to pay off all the debt. Threatening not to pay off the debt. Erecting trade barriers so that the amount of trade with a country drops. If the amount of trade with a country drops, the central bank says, because the central bank tends to hold reserves in a trade-weighted basis. So if you put tariffs on this country and trade drops, then the need for their U.S. dollars drop. What they'll do is they'll sell the U.S. treasuries and say, well, we're going to rebalance our currency portfolio, our reserve portfolio. We apparently don't need this many U.S. dollars. So they would sell those treasuries and put it into another currency of which they've directed their trade to. The global system is filled with a bunch of institutions and players that are all self-interested, that maximize their efficiency as much as they possibly can. So you have an extremely efficient financial system across the world. You go poking your fingers in it, all sorts of unintended consequences happen. Hit too many countries with tariffs, you will have a sell-off in your treasuries as countries move away from trade with the U.S. and find new relationships, like Canada. And Trump has punched Canada in the face for no reason. We have a lot of uranium. We sell 100% of it to Canada. And now the U.S. has given us a month to go find another buyer. And I'm sure we will. I'm sure we'll at least try to diversify our trade away from the U.S. during this 1 month. And then if we can buy another month, diversify a little more, buy another month, diversify a little more, we, as the Canadian Central Bank, would need to hold fewer U.S. dollars, meaning fewer treasuries. So if you start a global tariff war, I'm going to tariff you, and you get tariffs, and you get tariffs, unless you say what I do. Unless you do what I say. If you force enough countries to find other trading partners, you lower the demand for U.S. treasuries globally. You'll raise interest rates in the U.S. just by the selling of the treasuries as central banks rebalance away from the U.S. dollar. Tariffs is not consistent with maintaining reserve status on the U.S. dollar. I don't expect Trump to understand that. Number one, he probably doesn't get that. And number two, tariffs are just a baseball bat. He has no intention of actually using them on the people he's threatening. He just thinks he can threaten and things will work out. Didn't work out with Canada. I will explain that when we go along. Somebody said, look like tariffs are working. We'll see what kind of negotiator Trump was when we look at Canada. You've spoken in past podcasts, technology is deflationary. Could be some method to Trump's madness. No. No. AI implementations may reduce the need for labor. I'm sure that's may, not made. AI implementations may reduce the need for labor. Okay, it may reduce the need for labor. I'll take point number one and I'll say, okay, it may reduce the need for labor. Deportations will decrease the labor pool. Two, I'll say okay, will reduce the labor pool. You're saying it is definitely going to reduce the labor pool with will, not may, but okay. AI will result in better allocation of resources in the U.S., possibly reducing the need for resources import from Canada and Mexico. Why? How is AI going to eliminate the need for aluminum or steel or nickel or zinc or copper or lumber or oil or uranium? Let's say I'm a nuclear facility and I bring in AI and I say, whew, thank God we don't need uranium anymore. We have software. How is AI going to reduce the need for goods, for real things? For labor? Okay. Maybe you can get more efficient in the use of your resources, but how are you going to build a car without steel? So let's say I start a car company and I got a bunch of AI. I say, I don't need rubber. I don't need steel. I don't need any of that. I got AI. I don't agree with number three. Why would it reduce the need for resources from Canada and Mexico? You attribute a little much to AI there. Number four, AI may lead to more onshoring of manufacturing in the U.S. Why? Why would AI? AI is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Imports from Canada and Mexico. In the short term, during the economic realignment, there will be inflation. But in the longer term, the American economy may become more balanced as long as the debt. Wow, there's a lot of conditionals in here. I think what you're trying to do is describe a wonderful future. You know, AI will do these things. It will reduce demand for resources. We won't have to buy anything from Mexico and Canada. AI will reshore everything. Sure, there'll be inflation, but in the long run, everything will be great. AI is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and I'm not understanding how you're getting a reduction in resources and onshoring because of AI. Canada, in my opinion, needs to get its economy in order. And simply retaliating is a no-win situation. Who says they're simply retaliating? They're doing other things. They're not simply retaliating. Alberta's producing 4.5 million barrels of crude oil a day and selling it to the U.S. Northern mines are pulling out pounds of gold on a daily basis, tons of copper on an annual basis, zinc, nickel. Sudbury, I think, is the biggest processor of nickel in North America. We have wide swaths of timber that we harvest and use. Fields and fields of wheat and corn and soybean and barley. Who says that all we're doing is simply retaliating? We're not simply retaliating. We're retaliating. You're damn right, we're retaliating. If I punched you in the face, would you put your hands up and try to punch me back? And then if I said, well, you're just simply retaliating, you should go on and live a better life. You're simply retaliating as I keep poking you and punching you and you're trying to hit me back. Oh boy, you're simply retaliating. You're not simply retaliating. You're retaliating in the moment, but that doesn't mean that's all you're doing. I don't see that Canada is simply retaliating in a no-win situation. Who says it's a no-win situation? We did win. Now, you may think we didn't win, but we did win. There's a question later on about the tariffs seem to be working for the U.S., and we'll see what the U.S. got out of Canada and what the U.S. lost. It wasn't a no-win situation. The U.S. economy is just too large to feel any long-term pain from Canada retaliating with tariffs. That's not the point. It wasn't the point to beat the U.S. The point was to break one part of the U.S., to break one Republican stronghold or break two, right? You can win a war against a stronger opponent if you're strategic enough. Maybe what Trump is doing will force Canadians to finally elect people with some common sense enough. We didn't need Trump for us to recognize that we didn't want Trudeau. Believe me, we didn't need Trump for that. If anything, Trump might be changing some people's minds in Canada about voting Conservative. We really wish he would just keep it quiet until we get to our election. But we didn't need Trump to say that we don't like Trudeau. We didn't. Believe me, for any Canadian out there, they'll tell you straight up, we did not need Trump to come to the conclusion that this guy we don't want anymore. Put forth policies that will encourage growth and reduce the burden of taxes. I agree with that. I think it's time that we have a pro-growth government and a realignment of taxes. I do agree with that. But 1 and 2 I agree with. 3 and 4, you're asking AI to do a lot of heavy lifting there, and then you're using some simple thinking for Canada. Simply retaliating, you should get your house in order. Look, businesses are doing fine in Canada despite what the government is doing. Businesses are doing the best they possibly can and selling stuff to the U.S. So we're not simply retaliating, but to expect no retaliation would be foolhardy. Of course we're going to retaliate. I don't care if you're 6'8", 400 pounds and a great fighter. If you push me, I'm pushing you back. For the best that I possibly can. I mean, I'll think about if you're holding a knife and an axe, maybe I'll say, oh, sorry, buddy. But, if you're just going to push me around, I am going to push you back. I may not win, but I'm certainly going to focus on something. For your volatility trades, wouldn't you still need to be directional? Yeah, you can be directional, but the idea behind a volatility trade is you have an option on both sides, right? You have a put option and you have a call option. And then you're short and you're long, and you try to be delta neutral as much as you possibly can, long and short. And your short position is benchmarked to a call delta. Your long position is benchmarked to a pull delta. And all you're hoping is this. You're just hoping that happens. You don't really care about anything else. You're just hoping that both sides of that trade are super volatile. That's all you care about. You're not hedging. You're hedging the long versus the short. You're hedging delta neutral, but you're not hedging your short or your long. You're hedging against each other, and you're using the options as benchmarks. Capital to money market inversions and how that can be a leading indicator of recession usually is. This time it missed the mark. Is the current curve of an this was asked in a live a negative money market slope to positive capital market slope an indicator of anything? No. Well, not on economic theory. No, it's an indicator that the bond market is not happy with the way things are. I think there's a particular easy way to separate Trump from the markets. And in this regard, you're providing a full spectrum of what inputs and outputs control the market machine. Also, this is why I look forward to the... okay. Further education, collaboration, navigation of the market together, both financial and psychological sense. Okay, I try not to read the compliments, sorry. When the yield curve is inverted, is this a possible trade on IBKR? Yes, it is. If it's inverted, there's TUT, which is long the 2-year, short the 10, using futures. So it's really only a front month trade that you can do. And the underlying is part of the ticker TUT. Religious people, including myself, find purpose and resilience through their faith, which provide a sense of meaning beyond worldly concerns and a drive to push harder. Okay. As an atheist, how do you cultivate a deeper sense of purpose or direction in life? See, this is pride. You are showing pride that your belief gives you this, so you can't imagine how the lack of it could give anybody purpose, that you might be thinking, I have a purposeless life, and that I have no meaning in my life. I don't need an otherworldly and I'm sorry, imaginary fairy tale to believe in? Why can I not find meaning in what I do for other people? Why can I not find meaning in the way I treat animals? I have a ladybug in my house. I've made friends with this ladybug. This ladybug needs sugar, so I make sure I have little bits of fruit. And every morning I come out and I see the ladybug walking towards me on the counter. I put a little bit of fruit down so the ladybug can come and eat that fruit. I have a chipmunk out back that I feed. I had a dog. I mean, the connection you have. How can that not be a replacement for some God in the sky, to connect with the things around you in nature, to find meaning in the relationship you have with people? As a teacher, I can't tell you how rewarding it is to illuminate minds and to watch them grow and become well placed. People find meaning in all sorts of things, right? When you decide that what is good for you is good for everyone, you start down the path of dictator, all right? That, hey, listen, this is good for me. It's good for everyone then. Live and let live, right? You find meaning in what you believe in. That does not mean that people who don't share your belief have no meaning in life. Careful with the pride. I have lots of meaning in life. I have lots of purpose in life. I live a very fulfilled life here in the now. I don't live for some future day or some future unknowable, unknown, most likely made up by man fairy tale. From my perspective, that's what it is. Now, if it gives you meaning in your life, great. But hopefully that meaning in your life is in the here and now, not in the future. That you're not sacrificing the here and now because you think there's going to be some beautiful world that you're heading to. This is the world you're in. Tell me that you're not sacrificing the moment for the future, right? Any thoughts on agencies' move this week? Seems like it rallied sharply despite sluggish results. It's over 10 now, annually over 20. They're going to be very tied to the 10-year. Even though they hedge it out, the 10-year is the barometer for where you're going to have mortgage rates. If you want a robust MBS market, you need them to come with more leverage. So their leverage is low right now, but there isn't a lot of supply out there, and there is the looming concern that the Fed may start to sell its $2 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. The spread is rather wide. I don't know what it takes to lower it. In the meantime, the net interest income and dollar roll income more than pays for that beautiful dividend you get. It's had a beautiful dividend yield for how many years now? It's a little cash machine, like a little ATM in your account. How to understand? Do people can make money by seeing what trades the senators have taken? You would think that they're in a position to know stuff, right? This is why a sovereign wealth fund, I think, is a dangerous, dangerous thing. But the senators seem to be in a place to know stuff. I mean, they know what legislation is coming. They know what regulations are coming. They know stuff. Maybe. Do you expect us to do financial modeling for every security we want to buy, hold, or sell? No. It's way too much work. If you're going to the street, if you're going to the sell side, and you're doing analyst work, yeah, you better know how to do that stuff. If you are heading to investment banking, you better know how to do that stuff. If you are going to the buy side, you better understand financial models, but no, not really. Oftentimes, especially at the smaller cap level, stocks are bought on a story. You're still going to meet with management on the buy side. You're still going to have questions. You're still going to have some model, but certainly not 5-year forecast discounted cash flow stuff. right? You'll have some big assumptions in there. You'll have some key line items that you're forecasting based on your discussion with management. But a lot of the balance sheet accounts are accounting outcomes. That if you have a business that has revenues, that recognizes costs and expenses differently for reporting purposes and for tax purposes, you create deferred tax assets and deferred tax liabilities. Well, that's not a business model, right? That is a result of the difference between financial reporting and tax reporting. They're just accidental accounts that appear on the income statement because of that. The buy side is, who really cares about that, right? So not really. I don't do it at all. To be honest with you, I don't break out a financial model at all, ever. I know how to do it. It's a colossal undertaking in time to set up your first company. Updating your company over time is easy, but to set up a company, to set up a model, I'd say, and to understand the industry, I'd say you're putting in 150, 200 hours at a minimum to get started, and then hours after that. And you'll always be fine-tuning that model. Years. It'll probably take you 5 years before you have a model that you like. I'm long on everything since last spring. Well, that's worked out for you. Silver lining in all this mess is that most likely I'm still in the green after all is said and done. Given how irrational markets are, doing everything in their power to ignore what's happening, and given the average attention span of major news stories barely 2 days, I won't sound insane for expecting another quick shape recovery in a week or two. And we got it. We got it. I don't know where my iPad is, but I think the last time I saw SPY after 6 o'clock going into the overnight trading was 600, 599 and change, 600. So we're back there. How realistic do you think the possibility of Europe or Asian tariffs in response to the U.S.? Well, if the U.S. hits them, they will hit back. It's only logical to hit back unless you can avoid them. But if they say, look, tariffs are going into place in 2 days, then you have to announce retaliatory tariffs. You have to. You can't just be a pushover and let them roll all over you. You have to hit back. You have to. So 100%. Tariffs on China went through, and China hit back. Not much. I mean, really not much, because I imagine it was more symbolic. There's a belief that they're going to talk things through. Trump needs China to lean on Iran and to lean on Russia. So he's not going to do too much. Plus, he likes the guy. I've taken applied level. I want to ask, with recent AI and AGI, which will have 300, 400 IQ. Development talks. Will they take all finance jobs? Nope. Well, they will replace low-level work. They will augment high-level work. So if you're a high productivity worker, and especially a non-routine cognitive worker, AI will make you more valuable. But if all you do is routine stuff, AI will replace you. Feeling really low, as even if I study all these sector analysts and stuff in the applied level or do CFA, these things could just be done by them. Well, look, there's always been technology, right? The computer got rid of the steno pool. This was, all the secretaries that type. Got rid of that whole industry. But more employment and more jobs and more productivity and more wealth was created. So there's always more. No matter what happens, there's always more. I don't know that I would be too concerned about this. I'm not concerned. If anything, it will make me better, because I'll harness the power of AI to make money. But somebody has to tell the AI what they want. How are you going to know what you want unless you understand the field? How are you going to know what to look for? You're going to say, hey, AI, find me a profitable trade? How's the AI going to know that? You're going to have to be specific about where a profitable trade lies. You're still going to have to know stuff. Tariffs are not inflationary, just one-time price push. Correct. And furthermore, you also established GDP growth will suffer. True. Why will TLT tank? Oh, same question. That's because I was just assuming that the inflationary narrative would dominate. And even when it was dominating, I kept pushing back against it, saying, I don't believe it. I don't think I don't think you're going to have inflation, but you can't fight the crowd. I just thought the crowd would go on with their irrational story and drive TLT down. But they have not. Maybe too many people are listening to this. Assuming the economy and stock market crash, which leads the Fed to lower rates, long-term rates will follow as well. That is the hope. So far, the Fed has lowered rates and long-term rates have done the opposite. Do you think now's a good time to invest in real estate and REITs? I'm in real estate and REITs as a longer-term hold. Yeah, I like them. Probably not commercial ones, but in general. For commercial, I like industrial REITs, and I like mall REITs that have very big anchors, like grocery anchors or a bunch of Walmarts. REITs usually follow stocks in a free fall, but tend to rise when rates decline. This is true. These opposing forces will offset each other to some extent, but which do you think will have a stronger impact? REITs have always outperformed the market in a recovery. Have always outperformed. And REITs outperformed the S&P 500 from 2010 to 2019. Outperformed. If you were in REITs and the S&P, you did better in REITs. So yeah, I like real estate REITs. Well, of course, real estate REITs. That's a stupid thing to say, because REITs is real estate. I like real estate investment trusts. Stupid. Regarding the AI case on finance jobs, while it's true that new AI technologies seem to be definitely disrupting the finance industry and professions, it seems right to continue to learn, develop, and master in your professional field in the finance despite the threat that robots and AI would soon be replacing you. Yeah, I agree. Simply speaking, you can understand these new technologies or AI in the finance industry. You need to know the necessary knowledge and practice in the field to make sure that those technologies are indeed providing the right and true output. I agree. I agree. One thing that will supposedly do well is market makers, which thrive on volatility. True. Most of them are private, but Virtue Financial in the U.S. and Flow Traders in the Netherlands are public. There you go. Being interested in market makers, intermediate dealer brokers, and similar companies that started my investment journey a few years ago. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this sector. I think volatility is here for a while. We have seen that this year. I mean, it used to be called Merger Monday. Now you can call it Manic Monday. You know, every Monday is like, what the hell? What's it going to be this Monday? Iran? Like over the weekend are they going to bomb Iran in a preemptive strike? What's it going to be? I don't know. Spin the wheel. What's it going to be on Monday? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the sector, considering their peculiarities. Yeah, they thrive on volatility. The more volatility, the more profitable. I agree. Other than that, I don't know too much about either one of these two companies, so I can't go into detail about all of the items you have in the last sentence. But I agree, volatility is their main input. I wonder if all this turns out well for the U.S., if you will make a reconciliation video. How can it? Well, I don't have to. Didn't work out well. Highly intelligent. I think if you were in Trudeau. Oh, okay, we can pass on that. In the applied level, there is my position section, which I should watch from new one, or do I have to watch the previous ones too? Is there any benefit to it? In the four positions, I don't know that it's worth going all the way back, 2, 3, 4 months. Just jump in, and week to week, the picture will start to come into focus. That after 4 or 5 weeks, you'll say, okay, I get what you're holding. Or go back a couple of weeks, but I don't think you have to go back months and months, no. You once said you never had a job as you started your own venture. True. There's a section applied level on how institutions trade, correct? How did you know? You talk with some. I talk to a lot of people. Yeah, I know a lot of people in the industry. People I regularly talk to, that I have like, video meetings with. And when we start talking, it's 2-3 hours can go by. That's how in tune we are with each other in terms, especially when we're talking about markets. That we can go from topic to topic to topic, and it's absolutely thrilling and exciting. You get a little bit of extra detail that you might not have gotten on your own. I love those meetings. But yeah, I know lots of people. You said you know nothing about this AI and stuff, so in future, if you want to do sector analysis, how will you go about it? One thing a PhD teaches you to do, because a PhD is a research degree, right? It teaches you how to research. So you research. You simply start. And when you're not learning anything new, when you can spend 2 or 3 days in a row and you're going through report after industry report, after website, after 10K, and you're not learning anything new after a couple of days of that, you're done. Now you consolidate what you know, you write your notes out, and then you do your screens and off you go. But you research. You just jump right in. Doesn't matter where you jump in the middle. You don't have to figure out where the beginning is. You'll figure out where the beginning is. Just jump in the middle, and it's like a spider web. There's a whole bunch of directions you can go. Eventually, you will have traveled across that whole spider web, or at least enough of it that you understand what it looks like. It's a lot of work. 3-4 weeks. You're talking probably 120 hours of research to understand a sub-industry. It's a lot. Wondering if you could expand on your discussion about likely interest rate cuts as a result of tariffs. Resulting higher prices combined with low growth seems to stress both of the issues that central banks aim to combat. In a future video. Okay. If I buy TLT outright, I'd currently get a duration of around 17. If I wanted to multiply my duration exposure using TLT options, what would be the most efficient option play to create convexity? You want to create convexity? You'd probably, any at the money to out of the money options. The closer you get to a delta of 1, the less convexity you're going to have. Buy out of the money calls, finance within the money puts. That's a risk reversal. Yeah, those do very well, especially if you have skew. So if you have, and most ETFs will have skew. So skew is if you have implied volatility and you have the price of whatever you're looking at, you'll have other prices this way. These are puts, these are calls, and skew looks like this, right? So that the implied volatility on puts is higher than the implied volatility on calls. So when you, especially if you get elevated skew that looks like this after nice sell-offs, you get these elevated skews. You might, from the stock price, you might go up $5 and be able to go down $8 on the put to get a costless risk reversal. Using all of the puts to finance the call, you might be able to get something like that. I seem to think the best way to do it is buy a call. And if the stock price goes up, you start making money. There you go. That's beautiful. If the stock price goes down, you get to go a little further down on the puts and sell even further down because the put would increase in price. So you can still step into the risk reversal. I seem to think that's a better way to do it. Step through the game theory that may unfold here. Agree that those damaged by U.S. imposing tariffs are incentivized to act as a coalition and strike at red states. True. Politically savvy, then those instituting the tariffs would do so in a way that increases the value of the red state labor. Increases the value of the red state labor, or that the tariffs would generate enough federal government revenue that would then be used to economically fortify red states. Well, then you have a zero-sum game. You're raising tariffs to bring in revenue only to give that revenue to the loss that you're losing because you raise tariffs. Just don't raise tariffs to begin with. Just don't raise them to begin with. But in this order, the anticipation of retaliatory tariffs was built in by saying, if you retaliate, we'll go even higher. So that's sort of a giveaway that this is not finesse. This is not a negotiator. This is not somebody who knows how to get to a win. This is somebody who uses the sheer power they have to force you into submission. That's not negotiating. That is not negotiating. If Trump tried to buy my house, I guarantee you he'd walk away paying $200,000 over asking and thinking that he negotiated quite well. He's not a negotiator. He's not good at what he does. He simply has power behind him. Take the power away, this guy's not a negotiator at all. If I were in a hostage situation and Trump were outside with the bullhorn, I would say, please, any other negotiator, please, I'm going to die. He's not a good negotiator. He's terrible a poker player. He's easy to read. He's so easy to read. But we'll get to that a little later on. We'll see exactly how well he did with Canada, because there is a question about that later on. Perhaps I'm oversimplifying, but I would expect some new equilibrium to reach if tariffs stick, especially if deregulation can be leveraged to support the more severely impacted industries like automotive. I don't know that you can change those supply chains just with deregulation. I don't know that you can change them quickly. You sound exciting about the shopping spree. Oh, did I go shopping? I had a good time. I did well. I did well on Monday. I did well because I just figured they're not going to happen. I went on the basis they're not going to happen, and I just blindly bought whatever was on sale. I even bought some GM. Won't tariffs be beneficial to certain American companies? Yeah, they'll be beneficial to some and detrimental to others. As consumers switch to local products, driving volume and margins. Why aren't Americans buying from them now? Because imports are cheaper. So if you have tariffs and imports are more expensive, they'll shift to local producers, but they'll pay more because they always could have bought from local companies to begin with. They always could have, but they made a choice. The free market made a choice, and consumers made choices, and businesses made choices to say, no, here is the optimal way to spend. I want this, I want that. They could have always bought from these companies. They always exist. So if tariffs are in place and you start buying from these companies, because your other choice is now gone. So your choice has been reduced for you. You are going to pay a little bit more for these companies. Some companies may benefit. Other companies will lose. On net, tariffs tend to be a losing situation, a losing outcome. When Trump floated the idea of removing capital gains tax, he didn't realize he'd accomplish that by removing the gains. Well, there you go. No gains, no tax, right? Can you show how you get IVP for SPX? That is in the options chain window in Interactive Brokers. Free, I don't know where it is on a free website, though. I think U.S. exports of services will take a hit if Trump continues down that path. Personally cancel Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney after yesterday. Ooh. If you go to the Canada subreddit, so many posts are about encouraging others to do and find alternatives. This is a big deal. It is. This is one of the outcomes you get from threatening tariffs, is you awaken within Canada and Canadians the idea that they do have choice, and you highlight to them what those choices are. Choices they never would have made, choices they never would have discovered, but now they have. So at the margin, what did U.S. walk away with? Slightly lower demand from Canadians for American goods. At the margin, slightly lower demand for goods. I know when I went to Costco on Sunday, I usually grab a case of Fresca that lasts me a whole month. There's 24 in a case and about one a day. I find it refreshing. I grab Canada Dry. And now after I think a couple of days of this now, I think I don't mind the taste of it. It's pretty good. It's refreshing as well. I'm probably going to stick with Canada Dry. I never would have done that otherwise. And I'm one person. So there's 12 cases of Fresca gone over the course of the year, replaced with 12 cases of Canada Dry. At the margin, U.S. producers just lost some product. Canadians who go to the liquor store to buy wine, who might have been in the California section, probably made an active choice to be in the Ontario section. Ontario has some nice wines. Probably took some home wine that they probably never would have tasted before and probably said, this is pretty good. So at the margin, you will lose some sales there. At the margin, you'll switch to Seagram's instead of something from Tennessee. So the National Post had a story about this site called Buy Canadian that in the last few days has had thousands of new users on it. At the margin, what Trump has done is lowered the demand for American goods. At the margin, he has raised the price level a little bit on everything in the U.S. because Wall Street Journal wrote a story about some of the steel companies that have raised their prices in anticipation of the tariffs. And because the tariffs are only pushed back 30 days, those prices aren't coming back down because they're gone. They're still there. So the American price level has gone up a little bit. Demand for American goods has gone down a little bit. What did Trump get out of Canada? Nothing. Canada had already agreed to spend $1.3 billion on the border. After negotiations, Canada said, we'll spend $1.3 billion on the border. Like we said last week, Trump said, okay, let's do that, and we'll put the tariffs off for a month. You got no revenue. You got nothing new out of Canada. You got a slightly higher price level and a slightly lower demand for U.S. goods and a bit more animosity towards the U.S. This is your guy? This is your negotiator? This is winning? and how much money did non-Americans pull out of the American market because Trump was so easy to read? I pulled a lot of money out of the U.S. market on Monday. Thank you very much, Americans. How many Americans did he hurt when they woke up and they saw red everywhere and they said, get me out, sell, because they didn't understand that this just wasn't serious? How many people lost money in the U.S.? How many Americans lost money? This is your guy who doesn't give a shit about that? Who walked away with nothing more than he had before he put the tariff on, nothing more than he had, raised no revenue, lost some sales, lost some goodwill, and raised your price level. I don't know. You tell me. Is that a good negotiator? Is that someone you'd want negotiating your hostage release? I hope he comes back in a month and negotiates it again. What has he done by giving us a month? He's given Canadians a month so that uranium mine can now say, well, we got a month. Why don't we find another buyer? Just diversify a little bit away from the U.S. He's given Canadian firms a month to diversify away. At the margin, some firms will diversify away from the U.S. Not a good outcome. Trump is not a good negotiator. He's just a thug. All he does is he threatens people. He's just a thug. A negotiator uses soft power. Trump has no soft power. It's all hard power. And when you use hard power, you lose goodwill. He's not a negotiator. No, it did not work out well for the U.S. Worked out well for Canada, though. I recall your brief investment in Goodyear Tire. Wonder if it was a play on a turnaround story. Kind of, yeah. Didn't work out at first, but then it did. Their earnings did fairly well. I got to the point where I felt, okay, good enough. I just want out. I've left it. What do you look for that shows huge potential for a success turnaround? Management is aware of their problems, right? As long as management is aware of the problem, things can get better. But you must first be aware of the problem. So if you have they have a lot of debt. You know, they sold a tire line. They used that to pay down debt. They didn't do something stupid like Bell Canada did. That's dumb management there. But they have a plan. They are working the plan, which included cost savings and selling off some lines. They're doing that. They were working their way towards it as long as they recognize they have the problem. The worst is a company that has problems, and management is clueless that they have a problem. They are not even aware that they have a problem. Any thoughts on moving forward on Canadian oil and gas space given the sector reaction today? Yeah, I was waiting for Imperial Oil to take a big drop down. It really didn't. If I would have seen 90, I would have been all over that thing, but it didn't get there. Industry seems to be brushing it off somewhat. Yeah, because it's dumb. It's tariffs on Canada are just dumb. They're just dumb, right? I think that most experts in macro probably looked at this and said, this is not going to happen. This is a buying opportunity, and it was. As far as the companies you're naming, I'm not familiar with them, so I'll pass on the rest. If I was a country leader now in Mexico or Canada, I'd start purging Microsoft Office first, and then Windows. What would you use? There is no Canadian operating system or productivity software. Let's see. Note Friday, he started in the press conference. Note on Friday, he stated in the press conference, there is no concessions these countries can make. Yes. And that was a bluff. If he were sitting at a poker table, he'd get cleaned out. He'd get cleaned out because he's terrible at this. He's really quite bad at this. Slam buy on ES puts tonight. I wouldn't have bought puts. But that's what makes a market, right? One person sees one thing, sees it one way, I see it another. That's what makes a market. Possible Trump went lighter on China because there are more currently existing tariffs. Yeah, there are already tariffs in place. Plus, I do think that he needs China to solve some problems on that side. And in the end, he kind of likes the dictators. He kind of likes Xi. He wants to be. I think he really wants Xi to see him as the same thing in the U.S. That it's his country. There is no political party in China. It's Xi, whatever he wants. So far, what we've seen with Trump, it's whatever he wants. The negotiation tactic turned out well for the U.S. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. And we haven't seen the fallout yet. Believe me, there's a group of people in the Canadian government right now going, that was easy, and that are now saying, okay, what do we do? Clearly, this is going to be a difficult relationship for the next few years. Other lines of communication are being opened up right now. You've turned a whole bunch of Canadians into Canadian goods shoppers that otherwise never would have. Now they are. A sense of nationalism in our own products that never existed before. So in a way, I guess we can thank Trump for lighting a fire under Canadians to be a bit more patriotic in what they buy. Canada first. Canada first. Sound familiar? America first. Canada first. Okay. Trump gave us that as well. Canada first. Same in Mexico. I guarantee you there's a lot of meetings and a lot of businesses right now saying, how do we diversify away from this? Let's find new customers. Let's find new partners. Let's find new friends. At the margin, I'm not saying wholesale, but at the margin, you've started that conversation. This was not a win. This was a loss from somebody who is not a negotiator. How many businesses did he have that go bankrupt? Great negotiation skill there. Great business skill there too. All right. I always thought of U.S. trade deficits would be similar to a company running a negative cash conversion cycle. Basically, you have your suppliers finance your debt. Well, to have a reserve currency, you have to have debt. If you're going to have debt, you're going to have to find some way, if they have a reserve currency, you're going to have find some way that either you force them to trade in US dollars or you trade with them. one of the two. And if you trade with them, you have to buy stuff from them. So you could almost argue that the luxury of a reserve currency comes at the cost of a trade deficit in an accounting sense, because if they're holding U.S. dollars, they're holding U.S. treasuries. That would mean that the capital account has a plus sign in front of it. That means the current account would have to have a negative sign because they balance. So you almost by necessity have to run a trade deficit. I don't know that a lot of people around Trump understand that. I don't know that they're educated enough and nuanced enough to understand that a cost somewhere might result in a bigger savings somewhere else. I have somebody do my lawn, and I only have a front lawn because I have fake grass in the backyard, and I pay $40 every time they do my front lawn. It takes them half an hour, so it's like $80 an hour, right? But for me to go out there and do it would take me a little bit longer, and what do I have to give up to get that done, right? I don't know why you can't look at, or why they couldn't look at the trade deficit and say, well, what is it really that we're bringing in? Is it low value stuff? I mean, if it's low value stuff like socks and underwear, why the hell would we want to take resources in the US and dedicate it to low value stuff? So it could be that the US is having 3% real growth specifically because it says let's not get involved in this low value shit. And we want the US dollar to have reserve currency status, which gives us great power in the world. Well, power costs money. It could be that the cost of the trade deficit itself is the cost of getting that stuff done, and that cost is lower than the power you get on the other side. Everything has a trade-off. Everything. If you have a current account deficit, you must be getting something on the other side. And that comes in the capital account if you want to maintain reserve currency status. If you don't want to maintain reserve currency status, tariff the hell out of everyone so that their trade with the U.S. drops, their demand for U.S. dollars will drop. Who are you going to sell your debt to? Oof, that's going to be ugly, right? Right. Did I leave anything off here? U.S. is able to export some of its inflation as USD is the global reserve currency, which provides a natural bid for the dollar. Usually prices would adjust downwards and import. Okay, that's, yeah. You're basically saying what I said. Some other ways China could respond to the tariffs outside of just retaliatory tariffs. Graphite. Nobody gets any more graphite. Oh, and the Tesla factory shuts down immediately. It gets no inputs from China. Sorry. You can't have any inputs from China. Keep in mind, Musk is there, right? So if things go really bad, China wouldn't hesitate to punish American companies, and Tesla is right there, and Musk is a co-president. So yeah, he would get hit badly. Why Tesla isn't trading at $150 a share right now, I don't know. There is no fear, I guess, of that happening until it happens. I find that is a particular trait of the U.S. market, is that you could tell them the fire is coming and no one will leave the house. You could point out that the grass is on fire and no one will leave the house. Not until the curtains are on fire will Americans leave the house, and then they say, how come we didn't see this coming? So with the amount of risk out there that just refuses to get priced in until it shows up. But China can do a lot, right? Could they let the yuan weaken significantly like in 2018? Yep. Or maybe sell off a portion of their treasuries. If trade with the U.S. drops, they would not need to hold as many U.S. dollars. So sure, they would rebalance away from the U.S. dollar towards something else, unless they feel it's temporary. The threat of tariffs seem to be working in our favor. That's the one I was going to answer. Nope. No, it is not. It actually worked against you, because in the end, you got nothing new out of Canada than you had before. Like I said, you had slightly higher price level, slightly lower demand for your goods, and Canadians now have a month to diversify away from the U.S., which at the margin some will do. You actually ended up in a worse situation than you were a week before when Canada said, hey, we're spending 1.3 billion. You should have said, okay. But no, you had to go through all of that and end up in a worse situation. Agree to the same thing you had a week ago. Great. I don't know how you can say that that's great negotiation skill. When you say companies at the end of each quarter move cash into the reverse repo facility. No. They move cash into the money market. And money market funds get a whole bunch of cash coming in. Sometimes they can't find enough money market securities to do that, so they park it at the Fed, which ends up in the reverse repo. Companies don't do that. Companies put it into money market mutual funds. The money market mutual fund ends up with too much money. Then they go to the Fed and say, okay, we'll park it here overnight. Isn't already having the cash on the balance sheet already serving that purpose? You never leave cash on the balance sheet, ever leave cash on the balance sheet, because it earns nothing. You always put it in overnight money or 7-day money or 30-day money. But if you buy a 30-day T-bill and you hold it for 3 days, you still would have made interest. You never ever hold just cash. You never just leave it in a bank account. And if you leave it in a bank account, the bank will put it into money market funds or money market security somewhere. The bank won't let your money sit there. It'll make money on it. So even if you leave it in the bank, it is going to find its way into the money market. Anti-tariff. Why is it immoral and bad economic policy for the U.S. to tariff Canada, but moral and great policy for Canada to tariff the U.S.? Canada didn't tariff the U.S. Well, seems hypocritical to me. So you punch me in the face and I punch you back. I'm a hypocrite because I say, look, we don't have to fight. And you say, no, we do have to fight, and you hit me and I fight back, I'm a hypocrite? Come on. I mean, I think you know the answer to that. Come on. What do you think about the buy Canadian mentality? It is caught on. It has caught on. I'm aware of it. I did it. And it's something that I never would have thought of, but in the moment I looked and there was Canada Dry, and I don't know if Costco put it there on purpose. It was right beside the Fresca, and usually it's somewhere else. It was right there. And it was a big, actually they probably did it on purpose because it was a big display. Actually, maybe they did do it on purpose because it was discounted and the Fresca wasn't. Maybe they would have done it on purpose, right? So maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it is a thing. It is a thing. Does it have a meaningful impact? At the margin, it will have an impact. It doesn't have to have a meaningful impact. It just means that the demand for American goods is now slightly lower. That's all that means. So, yeah, the tariff did work. If by working you mean less demand for American goods, job done. And now that I've switched to Canada Dry, now that I've had it, I don't mind it. It's not bad. It's kind of nice. It's refreshing. I like it. And I like the fact that it is Canadian. So I will continue with it. I never would have done it otherwise. I want you to understand that. For those who think the tariffs worked, I want you to understand I never would have done it otherwise. But sometimes when you do something like this, you force people to reevaluate their choices and their decisions. That's the danger of doing this stuff, is that I may look at our relationship and say, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be dating. You're right. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't know. I don't know how much I'm going to switch, but I'm probably going to stick with the Canada Dry Ginger Ale now. I only have about one a day, sometimes two, but one a day, because after 1 o'clock I try not to drink anything with caffeine, so you can't have Diet Colas or black tea or coffee, and the white teas make me sleepy, so I really don't want that. But you can only drink so much water before you just want something that's fun, so I do that. 70% cash over the last few months, slowly accumulating gold. Why be slow about it? It's momentum. It's on a momentum tear. Don't be slow about it. I think this is a setup for gold to blast through 3,000, maybe in 4,000. 3,000, I think, is pretty much what most gold traders probably have as penciled in, saying it kind of looks like it's going to get there. What was the futures price today? 28.50, right? Trump becoming wealthy are interesting. Matt Levine and Bloomberg wrote about this sovereign wealth fund idea today in Money Stuff. Okay, let's talk about what Howard Lutnick said. He said, if the U.S. is going to buy 2 million doses of a vaccine from a company, we should have warrants or stock in that company. Whoa, 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 whoa. You know you're going to buy these 2 million units. You are basically trading on inside information. You're front running the whole market by buying the stock. Now, the warrant is troubling. This is super troubling because it is the company that issues warrants. Warrants are for stock that don't exist. They're for new stock. Options are for stock that exists. But warrants are for new stock. So what he's basically saying is if we're going to buy 2 million shares, this company better give us something. That's extortion. Or if the company comes along and says, if you buy 2 million vaccines, we'll give you warrants, that's a bribe. Or if the government says, well, we're going to buy this stuff, so we're going to go ahead and buy this stock. Well, you're going to buy it off somebody that's selling it just before you make the announcement that you bought 2 million shares of it. That attacks the integrity of capital markets. So what if Lutnick says, hey, can we do anything to drive the US dollar down for a couple of days? I'm going to take a short position on the US. It'll pay off nicely. And then let's drive it back up when I go long. What about the market? Can we make the market drop? And then can we make the market rise? What about this company? Let's concentrate all of our defense spending on this country, but let's buy a bunch of shares before we make the announcement that we gave them a $2 billion order. What about this cybersecurity firm? Before we put any money on it, let's buy some shares before we tell. This is bad news. Now, if you own the Justice Department and you own the SEC, nobody's investigating you. What did Trump say about TikTok? I have the power to make TikTok worth zero or worth something. It's my decision. I can do it. I can make them worth zero. He wants the U.S. to own 50%. Where's it going to go? Inside the sovereign wealth fund. That's extortion. I don't understand why this is not a bigger story. Go back to that press conference, find it on YouTube, and listen to what Howard Lutnick says. If we're going to buy 2 million doses of a vaccine from a company, we should have warrants or stock. You don't get warrant. You get warrants from the company. In other words, you're going to extort the company for warrants, or accept the bribe, and attack the integrity of capital markets. Who knows what they're doing? But here's the thing: it could be the most wildly profitable sovereign wealth fund you've ever created, because the U.S. could create the very circumstances that create the money. And who is paying for it? Well, the investor class would be paying for it. You'd be taking money from the investor class. You'd be taking money from pension funds, from all sorts of places. But listen, that debt's got to be paid anyways. It's got to be paid. So you can either tax people to death or rip people off through the capital markets. You can rip them off. This is a dangerous step. This is a bloody dangerous step because these guys are traders, right? These Besant, Lutnick, these guys are traders. These guys are sharks. They know how to play this game. No. This is a bad idea no matter how you look at it. Now, Besant said he wants to monetize U.S. assets. I don't know that anybody figured that out. Do you know what monetize assets mean? It means sell. Sell them or generate revenue off of them. Sell them or generate revenue. Well, some of the assets it has is Bitcoin. Does that mean sell the Bitcoin? Well, you have 200,000 Bitcoin at $100,000 a share. That's what it means, monetize. You can't monetize the Bitcoin any other way, but monetize assets, sell stuff off, turn it into cash, drive the US dollar down on a short position, then go long, drive the US dollar up, drive the market down, drive the market up, drive the market down, drive the market up. Get rid of this regulation, but before we get rid of this regulation, buy this sector ETF and then announce that we got rid of this regulation. Buy shares of Truth Social, DJT's stock. The Sovereign Wealth Fund should buy shares of that to support. Where does it end? I want you to think about how bad an idea this is for the integrity of the capital markets. Why this is not a bigger story, especially after what Howard Lutnick said. Right? If that is either extortion or bribery, my God. Now I haven't listened to what Matt Levine said about this, but maybe he did raise these issues. But why is this not a bigger issue? I don't know. You should start a merch line. Yeah. I had hats, and I sold hats only because it supported charity. That I would match the hat sale and donate to charity, but just to sell hats to generate revenue, it's not my thing. Not my thing. Those who pass, actually, everybody who's coming down to Costa Rica gets a free hat. I got a bunch of hats left over, so anybody who's coming down to Costa Rica starting on February 23rd, I got 3 weeks of guests coming down. They get a hat. Those who pass level 1, the back of the shirt could show a checkbox next to the word CFA. Oh, can't use CFA. Copyright violation. They own those letters in that order. Can't use that. That is kind of neat. A buffering sign next to level 2. That is funny. Maybe something for CFA to sell merch, but I think they'd see that as a hit to their integrity. Non-U.S. resident, 50K U.S. to invest. Which strategies in the applied series should I focus on? Well, with only 50,000, you don't want to, if you don't know the markets, I would focus on probably a buy and hold strategy. 30,000 in SPY, 20,000 in TLT, and have a contribution plan where you're contributing another 500 a month, and just keep doing that until you gain knowledge in what you want to do. But I don't know that I'd follow too many strategies, too many active strategies just yet. Time to load up on Ford, GM, TLT. I bought GM and sold GM same day. I think 46 and change, and then 48 and change. It was just a quick in and out. Simple words. What is the real deal with all these tariffs from the U.S.? It's just the only thing he has, right? He's not going to threaten military invasion. So he threatens tariffs because he's a brute. It's a brute force method to force people or to force countries to do what you want them to do. It's a brute force mechanism. It doesn't take skill to threaten tariffs. It doesn't take skill. Why does Trump make such an interesting play? Why does Trump make such an interesting? Well, he's easy. He's easy to read. He's easy to play. Because as I'm trying to understand, I see tariffs as a negative thing for both sides. That's exactly what it is. It is negative for both sides. Tariffs, you're like encouraging domestic producers, but it's still a negative play. What am I missing? You're not missing anything. You're not missing. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Only someone with a lack of skill would use it. It is just stupid, especially your friends, especially allied nations. It's just stupid. And well, there we go. I think I said enough that it's stupid. What are the thoughts on U.S. having a sovereign wealth fund? Just answered that, right? I think that's dangerous. Dangerous. However, it would be the single most profitable wealth fund ever, because it would have access to inside information that nobody else would ever have access to. And if it follows through on what Lutnick wants to do, it would extort and take bribes. And would you put it past the Trump administration, extortion, bribery? I'm not saying he would. It just, I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past any of them. But again, I'm not saying he would. Like, if it were Obama, I'd say, oh no, I don't see that he would be involved in anything like that. If it were George Bush, I'd say the same thing. No, I don't think he'd be involved in anything like that. But this guy, probably. It wouldn't check a moral or an ethical box with him, because there is no moral or ethical box. It wouldn't check anything. Why does the 1 year U.S. Treasury have a lower yield? Because the 1 year will price in some rate cut that the 3 month is not pricing in, so it will have within it some expectation of lower money market rates. Canada needs to tax America on the energy at the same 25%, and then you said it, yeah. Hopefully tariffs will force Canada to finally refining our resources here and selling to other countries. Well, that is the risk of threatening other countries as they start thinking maybe we can do it on our own, right? Tariffs from the 1860-1910 were highly successful. Read again. They were abandoned. 1860s and 1910, no income tax. Where are you going to get your tax from? Costa Rica does the same thing, no income tax. And we who live there understand, well, there's no income tax. So you'll pay an import duty, 30% on everything. And you pay the 30%. It's like a tariff on everybody's product coming into the country of 30%. But if you're going to tariff and not reduce my income tax at the same time, you're just adding another tax. Right? Reducing dependence on British Empire, turning U.S. into a manufacturing hub. Could they have gotten the same result by not using tariffs and instituting income tax? Why wouldn't bring back tariffs today achieve the same success? Because it's not 1860. And the world is bigger than just Europe and the U.S. 1860, where was South America? Where was Latin America? Where was Africa? Where was China? Where was Japan? Where was the rest of the world? Nowhere. It was really the U.S. and Europe, and that was it till about till after World War II. There was nowhere to go. Can you explain in detail? I don't think we need detail. It's not 1860. I mean, it's not 1860. Money did not move very quickly. Right? Today, money moves at the stroke of a keyboard. I can move money all over the world without Bitcoin, by the way, through the banking system. I can move money around I can move it from country to country within minutes. I don't need Bitcoin. Money can go anywhere now. Capital is mobile. It never used to be that way. And we have an income tax. And we have I'd say a more balanced economy than we would have had back then, a more cohesive economy, a more mature economy. So it's a completely different, going by saying, why stop at 1860? I'm just curious as to why privilege 1860 to 1910? Why not go back to some of the empires of the past? Why not go back to the Byzantine Empire, to Rome, and say, well, look, it worked in 2500 BC. Why wouldn't it work today? Because it's history. It's a different thing, a different context altogether. China's 10% tariff on top of what they already have. Yeah. As the AI infrastructure and power thesis starts to fall apart, would our supply of copper be sufficient? I don't know that it falls apart. The billions and billions of dollars in infrastructure may fall apart, but I don't think AI goes away or falls apart. And I don't think the amount of work that's done in bits and bytes falls apart and goes away. I don't think the size of video files shrinks. I don't think we go back to 3K and 2K. We go from 4K to 5K to 6K on video streaming, which is bigger and bigger and bigger files. I don't think that electric vehicles go away. I think they're not quite ready yet, but I think that the future is probably more electric than it is internal combustion, but that's years away. No, I think going forward, you need more electricity and more power, not less. So no, I don't think it goes away, even if the major big AI investments go away and it becomes cheaper. Then you'll just have a whole bunch of companies making smaller investments that collectively would add up to a significant amount. It seems that everyone knew it was coming. Oh, hang on. Going into the weekend, I was thinking that markets would not move much in the following week, given that these tariffs were announced weeks in advance. Again, Americans don't leave the house till the curtains are on fire. It seems that everyone knew it was coming. Yep. And yet everyone's suddenly freaking out. Yep, that is a characteristic of the American market. I say the American market because other markets do respond to risk events on the horizon, but not the U.S. market. Been like that for, my God, at least 20 years now. That it just doesn't respond at all. Are the markets starting to become efficient? No, I think the market has become too democratized. Way too much passive money out there and way too much inexperience out there treating the markets like a casino. Market outlooks on YouTube Music. I don't know that that would work because everything I do is quite visual. To do the market outlook verbally, as a story, as a podcast where you don't really have to look at the screen, I don't know if I could do that because I say, have a look at this, have a look at that. So it is visual. I think it would lose something in me describing what I'm looking at. Politics is a large part to play in markets. Short Bitcoin since Friday. Yeah, Bitcoin dropped to 92,000 on Monday. Canadian energy companies will fare during this time. So far, so good. Imagine Canada becoming part of the U.S. with heavily reduced taxes. I think you have to look at it the other way. Imagine the U.S. becoming part of Canada. I mean, if you think that we're better as one, become a province. We're okay with that. You would have some benefits, I think, being part of Canada. And besides, if we were a 51st state, would be the size of California, and Canada would most likely vote Democrat, you'd never have another Republican leader again. That's what you want. Americans need jobs more than they need low-priced products from Canada, China, or Mexico. Here's my challenge to you when you say that. Here is my challenge to you. I want you to go stand in the parking lot of Walmart. And I want you to tell everybody going in not to buy the Chinese products, not to buy the foreign products, but to try to find the American products, which will cost them more, but find the American products. And then check the bags on the way out. People will vote with their wallets. They will vote with their wallets. If the Chinese stuff is cheaper, they'll buy the Chinese stuff. Period. They say they support labor, but in the end, their money is their money. And what they say when they support labor is everyone else should do it, but not me. Not me. I need to buy this stuff, and that's the cheaper place for me to buy it, so I'll buy that. Walk around your house and have a look at how many things are made in Vietnam, made in China. Look at all your clothes. Find any of your clothes made in the USA. Any of it. Right? It's super expensive to make low-cost stuff in the US. Like I said on the live feed, if you want to pay $87 for socks made in the US with union labor, that's fine. But next time you go to Costco and you buy the bundle of 12 for $29.99 or $25 or $20 or whatever the bundle of 12 is made in China, I want you to really seriously think, do I want 12 socks for $25 or can I find an $80 pair made with union labor out of Pennsylvania? You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. So these are platitudes. Americans need jobs more than they need low-priced products. Too bad. What's going to win is your wallet. Every shopper votes with their wallet. Tariffs allow for these structural changes to take place. Well, that is what you're saying to Americans, is we are going to force you to have less choice. We are going to force you to pay more so that you buy less. We are willing to sacrifice. Well, are you? We are willing to sacrifice your jobs and your industries. That means higher prices, that we have domestic production and consumption, most importantly, dignity for people who do not see economic progress. You think that that's actually what's going to happen? Is that suddenly you're going to have all of this wealth and everything's going to be great and people are going to flock there and companies are going to set up and there'll be these high-paying jobs and you'll still be able to buy stuff and you'll have all this choice. Do you really think that was what's going to happen? What you're going to have is reduced choice and higher prices, which will reduce aggregate demand, so you're going to have lower employment. Okay, this fantasy story that you're unfolding here, maybe this is what is being told to you, but it's a lie. It would not be like that. That's the reality, whether you itch and complain, like it or not. Oh, okay, let's just move on. Recommend good read on market manipulation schemes carried out over the past century in financial markets. I think I read one book, The Misbehavior of Markets. I don't know if there's a good source of all the stuff. I think it's all specific and company by company. You got to find the Bernie Madoffs, the Enrons, things like that. Hunt Brothers. They're all particular stories. Big tub of popcorn, but is being tariffed. How do you make a small fortune in Trump's world? Start with a large fortune and work down. Yeah, that's good. How do you make $1 million? You start with 5. How do you prefer to be addressed? Professor, doctor, just by your name? Just Mark. There's never one for professor or doctor. Just Mark is fine. Even in class with my students, I say, just call me Mark. I'm perfectly fine with that. One other professor on the floor said, you let your students call you Mark? I said, why not? I said, because you need that separation of respect. I didn't need it. I mean, I don't care. I don't use doctor, by the way. I only use it when I need to make a point. That if somebody is, if I'm explaining something or talking to customer service or something and they're talking down to me, Mr. Meldrum, I say, excuse me, it's doctor. If I need to make a point, then I'll bring it out. But for the most part, I don't care. Mark is perfectly fine by me. These are just trophies. It's where you put your trophy says a lot about who you are, right? I have my PhD actually. I got it years and years ago. I just got it framed like a few months ago. It was always just in a folder, in a drawer. Never even took it out. Just got it framed because I have my new office. I get to pick up my new office desk tomorrow. I totally forgot about that. I should be more excited right now. So once I get my new office desk in, I remove this one. I roll out the new carpet. I do have new carpet that goes in. I've been waiting. Put the new desk in place, and then these go on the wall beside me. It's the first time I'll be hanging them up. I had them framed to match the desk. Let's see. Do you think this could be a wake-up call for Canada? It has been. Politicians are saying we must never be this reliant on the U.S. again. That is the outcome. That is the outcome, right? So at the margin, this was a negative for the U.S. You think Japan may benefit from U.S.-China tariff war as a transit country? I don't know that there's a lot of goodwill between Japan and China, really. Bad history there. 2 dogs strive for a bone, third runs away with it. That's true. Kazakhstan is emerging a transit country amid the embargoes imposed on Russia. Yeah, I mean, never say never. It's possible. Japan could be hit by tariffs as well. Who knows with Trump? I mean, I don't know what he has to dislike about Japan, but he'll find something if he wants something from Japan. He'll threaten them with something. Trump is talking about many countries, but not Japan. I don't even know if does he even know that a country named Japan exists? I mean, I'm being half funny here, but half serious. Does he even know that a country by the name of Japan exists? If somebody brought up Japan, maybe he'd say, well, Japan, they'd be treating us very badly. No one ever thought, it was Biden, so stupid, same with Obama, so stupid. Just jumps right over him, right? But, we're going to take care of Japan. They've been treating us very badly. I'm sure if he focused on Japan, he's got the same speech. He just changes the name of the country in there. He's going to make a deal that no one ever thought could be done. Everyone's talking about it. It's the most incredible deal ever. Most U.S. imports come from China. This is true. China is also the major buyer of American debt. This is true. Because of that, if you reduce the amount of purchases out of China with US dollars, then China doesn't have the US dollars to continue to buy the US debt. You kind of need everything is optimized. You kind of need everything in place. You can't just, wholesale change everything. You're going to break a lot of stuff. Unintended consequences, nonlinear reactions, right? Basically, China pays America to consume their products. It finances America, true. Not only just to consume their products, but to keep their costs low. The implication of Apple assembling the iPhone in the US, I think, what is it, $200, $300 it would add to the cost of the iPhone? So when we think about how much extra money Americans have because they can buy their stuff cheaper on an import basis from other countries, you could argue that US GDP at 3% is only at 3% because you have the trade deficit. If you tried to balance your trade, you might only get domestic real GDP of 1%, 0.5%. You might be a low growth stagnant country because of it, because you're focusing too much of your resources on low value added stuff. How would gold do? Gold's doing very well. 1 in 4 unless it's John Jones. I got a couple of pushbacks from that if you took a couple average Joes in with a professional fighter, you got to put 2 behind the fighter, 2 in front of the fighter. They have to have a plan. It's not as if, they all just stand back and everyone's afraid. If all 4 charge that fighter at the same time, I don't care who he is. He's going down. If you get 4 guys like me, I would lose badly to these 20 and 30-year-old fighters. I'm 58. I'd lose badly. But you get 4 guys my size, 220 pounds, that have that know how to take care of themselves, and you get 4 of us. Yeah, 1 or 2 of us are going to take some damage on the way in, but we're taking that guy down. There is no way any fighter, I don't care how good their ground technique is, can fight in the guard position with 4 guys on him. There's no way it can happen. He's taking them down. I stand by that. I'd like to see that. Wouldn't you pay to see a fight like that? Saudi Arabia should set something like that. Netflix should set something up like that. Yeah. Any thoughts on the idea that the extent to the tariffs on China would be negotiation tactic to forward? Well, of course it's a negotiation tactic. That's all he knows how to do is negotiate with force. He did it with his own businesses, right? His own lawyer said what he would do. Whenever he'd say, okay, we'll build this building, and all the suppliers, you call them up and you threaten to sue them because their work sucks, right? And who wants to get sued by somebody with more money than you? You'll take a lower price. So when he says all my buildings came in under budget, that's because he ripped off his own contractors. That's because that's how he negotiates, through force, right? That's hard power. That runs out. Yeah. Any thoughts? It would be negotiated to force China to buy U.S. bonds to bring long end yields down. This would help China deal with their currency deflation spiral as well. I don't know. Well, it's plausible, sure. If you can get China to buy U.S. bonds, I just don't know that Trump is sophisticated enough to think of that. Unless somebody told him that, I don't think he's sophisticated enough to think of that. I don't think that's what he wants. To be honest with you, I think Canada should just take it and survive those 4 years. Silver short squeeze. 60% of silver is imported from Mexico and Canada. But he did promise to do so, and people still backed him. Well, I think people backed him on the story that everything was going to be beautiful because he told everybody exactly what they wanted to hear. Right? He is like any other politician. It's not just him. All politicians do that. They tell you exactly what you want to hear. until they get elected. Then they do what the hell they want. Listen, no elected official, not even Trump. I don't care if you're MAGA, if you're hard MAGA, I don't even care. He doesn't give a shit about you. No elected person gives a shit about you. It's all about them. It's all, no matter how left they are, and no matter how much they think they're for the people. Look at Jagmeet Singh in Canada, right? He could easily get another election going, but he won't. He won't. Nobody likes Trudeau. Trudeau is damaging to the economy. He knows Trudeau is bad. He knows the Liberals are bad, but he wants his pension. He wants his pension. So everyone suffers until he gets his pension. Why? Because he's there for him. He's not there for you. None of these people are there for you. They're there for them. They don't give a shit about you after they get elected. They don't give a shit about you. So, what was that? What was I railing against? Oh yeah, he did promise to do so, and people still backed him because they probably didn't understand exactly what the reality was. I don't think. I think they voted for what they felt was their best interest, but they were misinformed by somebody who has a penchant for just making shit up. Canada's our friend. I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, it didn't have to be this way. You don't deserve this. Thank you. That's nice. By the way, Canada's now Canada can now begin selling to Greenland. Yeah. Trump didn't start the EO bandwagon. He just got in the driver's seat. To call him a dictator is unnecessarily dramatic. I don't think so. I would expect you of all people, me of all people, me to be more objective. I am more objective. Yours just saying that because I simply don't agree with what you already believe. Because I'm saying something you don't already believe, so this is your answer. I'd expect you to be more objective. How come you don't believe what I believe? Well, I would expect you, Ronnie Sports. Ronnie Sports, I would expect you to be more objective. I'm surprised at you. I thought you were smarter than that. See? You see how passive-aggressive that is? I don't think it's unnecessarily dramatic. I think it's exactly what he's been doing. He has been acting like a dictator. Where's Congress? Right? Congress is nowhere to be seen. It's just him. He's making all the decisions. Nobody's making any other decisions. Sounds like a dictator to me. And he wants to be a dictator, my God. If you can't see that, oof. I'm surprised. I thought you were smarter than that. Passive-aggressive, man. Passive-aggressive. He wasn't able in a herd to hurt Russia. Whose real GDP 3 years in a row grows at about 4% per year, becoming number one GDP. Well, EU is in crisis. How can EU afford to fight with US in addition to all of this? Can we believe the data coming out of Russia? Can you believe the data coming out of China? That's always a question with governments like this, especially with dictators that need to stay in power. Can you actually believe the data? Right? I don't know that I believe the data. And as far as the EU fighting something, what are they going to do? Say no? If there's will, there's a way forward. Right? Remember Churchill. Time to start studying Mandarin. Seems you got the magic ball after all. Dictatorship, good for my portfolio. I don't know how much longer we have here, but I'll try to get through some more. 10% on Canadian energy shows his weak point for the world to see. I agree. That was a give. Tuesday morning was also a give. He'd be a bad poker player. I thought he was a great negotiator. Nope. Bloodbath comes too late to trade, but I would wait for his backtracking for the reversal. He did. Republicans would never allow Canada to be a state. They would be overwhelmingly Democratic. Yep. Yeah. Can't have the 0.5. No. Doesn't Trump want to onshore supply chains and replace fixed income tax with tariffs? Maybe. I would seem to think so, but hopefully somebody would talk him out of such a stupid thing. And then also lower taxes for all companies that comply. Like you said, seems like a stretch without retaliation, but hypothetically, could his play make sense in that context? Replacing federal income tax with tariffs. Here's what you get in Costa Rica, because this is what you have, is you get a lack of choice, a significant lack of choice. So you get a few things that if you really want something, you have to order it from Amazon and have it delivered to Miami. There is a big business in Costa Rica of setting up export facilities in Miami where you're a broker. And you provide an address, and you have all your Amazon shipments dropped there, and they import it into the country for you, and it takes time. It just slows things down. There is a significant lack of choice. Your choices are much smaller than they are here. So that is just the problem with these with tariffs. You have no income tax, so you have these tariffs coming in, but you have a low amount of choice with these tariffs, so you end up with a lower level of consumption than you normally would get. Not because there's lack of money to spend, but because there's lack of choice on which to spend it on, unless you want to buy cheap shit or you wait. What most people who have money in Costa Rica do is they go to Miami for a weekend. They buy all their stuff and they come back with it in their suitcase and they don't pay anything. So you end up with a whole bunch of inefficiencies like that when you do something like that. It gets gamed very easily. So no, I don't know that would be a good idea to replace it with to have fully just tariffs and replace it with income tax. Not for a country that has the ability for domestic production. Now, Costa Rica makes sense because they have no domestic production. So it would be hard to build a tax base on a lack of domestic production, so you got to find a tax base somewhere else. The U.S. has a tax base, but they got to get more money from their citizens because they got to pay off all that debt. All of that money has got to come from Americans somewhere. So you're going to get taxed somewhere. Lower taxes for all companies that comply. I don't know. You have to think about, well, how can all of that be gamed? What would be the unintended consequences of all that? You're wrong on every aspect of the tariffs. No, I'm not. I'll just scroll ahead. Little Donald loves tariffs because he can act like a dictator bypassing Congress. There you go. I don't think this is a cash grab. He's almost 80 and has enough money to buy whatever he wants. It's never enough. It's never enough. Look at all the settlements he's getting from all the companies that he sued because of bad coverage. They're all settling with him, right? They're all settling. So what I've heard, some people on Bloomberg, I heard it say, well, I'm going to be careful what I say about Trump because I don't want to get sued. Because that's what he'll do. I don't think he has enough money because it's about winning, right? More money means more winning. No, I don't. I think he's highly concerned about money. Donald is a fucking moron, Rex Tillerson. Yeah, I remember him saying that. Funny how you are usually against liberal policies, but now against a conservative president's policy. Well, no, I'm not against a conservative president's policy. I'm against a stupid policy. Just because a conservative has a policy doesn't mean that I got to fall all over it and fall in line and praise it just because a conservative said it. Liberals can have good policies. It doesn't mean that everything a lib does is bad. It doesn't mean everything a conservative does is smart. This is a stupid policy. It's not a conservative policy, by the way. This is not a conservative policy. This is I don't know if I'd call it a left-leaning policy, but it's certainly not a conservative policy. It's a stupid policy. You can be critical of things you're in favor of, right? And you can find value in things you disagree with. I disagree with Trudeau. I disagree strongly, but it doesn't mean that I disagree with absolutely everything the Liberal government has done. You know, I'm sure if I go through the 8 years, I could say, okay, I agree with this and I agree with that. But on balance, I disagree with most of what you've done. But I'm sure I can find some good things. And when Poilievre is prime minister, I'm sure there'll be some points where I go, well, that's a stupid decision. That's dumb. Doug Ford is the premier of Ontario. He's Conservative Party, and I've been critical of him. It's like, such stupid things. Just because Trump does something doesn't mean I got to say, oh, it's my team. I got to praise my team for everything no matter what. Some things you just can't defend. This is non-defensible. It's just a stupid policy. That doesn't mean I'm a lib. You can be critical. Look at Bill Maher. He still votes Democrat. He's still a liberal, but look how critical he is of the crazy people in his party, of the stupid liberal shit. Right? You can be critical. That doesn't mean that you're suddenly anti-conservative just because you're critical of a decision that happens to be stupid. Right? Hope the courts step in. But like you said, maybe we get correction. We need to transfer the duration play back to equities. Thanks again for the research. Will you continue to make volatility suggestions in the future on the applied level? Transfer the duration play back to equities. I'm not following that, I guess. Maybe we get the correction we need to transfer the duration play back to equities. Okay. Volatility suggestions. Oh, yes. If you watch the positions video each week, I think this year is a year for volatility. So it is just a matter of positioning for it. Trade does not seem to be a big part of U.S. GDP and growth. It is. What you're looking at, and I think I answered you there, is that you might be confusing the trade balance with trade. So what you see in GDP when you see the plus 0.04, that is the effect of the trade balance over what it was previously. Did the trade balance from the previous year to this year, the previous quarter, this quarter, contribute to growth or take away from growth? But when you look at exports versus imports, exports are some 4.5 trillion, some 3.5 trillion per year on imports. The churn underneath is big, right? It's same with the jobs market. When you see 170,000 jobs were added, if you look at the churn underneath, you'll find that it was like 5.3 million jobs were added, and 5.13 million jobs there were 5.13 million separations, 5.3 million new hires, the net result. So sometimes it can be, you think, well, only 170,000 jobs. No, the churn underneath is big. This is a net result. Same with the exports and imports. The churn underneath is quite big. So trade is a big part of U.S. of U.S. economic activity. The trade balance is what affects the GDP. Investment income and capital into the U.S. is a big chunk of growth of GDP. Well, income and capital could be if it's used for direct investment. If it's used just to purchase capital assets, not really. Would it not be better to concentrate on investments instead of trade war? Yes. There you go. Look at that. And you don't have to have 60 years of real estate experience behind you to recognize that. Yes, absolutely. It is better to do that instead of a trade war. Absolutely better to do that. I hate to say this, but as a history buff, watching this unfold is eerily similar to Germany 32. Definition of unethical behavior. Trump knows real estate, and real estate loves, needs low rates. It's true. One way to get the Fed to cut is big market drop. So is this his way of getting the Fed to... No. He's playing checkers. Don't attribute any 3D chess to this guy. He doesn't have that finesse. He means exactly what he says, and his any success he has comes from his power, comes from the power he has and his willingness to use that power. But finding win-win situations, using a softer form of power, using influence, that's not his style. It is raw power, period. Raw power, and it's not 3D chess. There is no finesse. He breaks things, and then claims that he won. Unless the market thinks the tariffs will be short-lived. They were short-lived, yeah. Optionality of a new trade deal is in 2016. Could be, yeah. Russia started World War II alongside the Nazis by occupying Poland, and then attacked Finland. Canada deserves it. 25x benefactors of U.S. import-export. No, they're not. Hapless to do anything. Okay, so that's just MAGA stuff. I think you're lost. I've been lost before. I went to the woodshed today, which is if you're in the St. Catharines, Niagara region, woodshed, if you're into anything wood, it's like a paradise. All the different types you can get there. And then I had to get my way back to St. Catharines, and I said, well, I'm not going to go back the way I came. I'm just going to, I think I could just scoot over here. And I started going that way, and I got lost. And I got a map to find my way back. I think you got lost. You're looking for Truth Social, Alpha Hunter, E9D. You're probably looking for Truth Social, and you got lost. It's understandable. Happens to me. Waze, W-A-Z-E. W-A-Z-E. Download that app for your phone as far as directions go. And then where do you want to go? Just type in Truth Social. And it should help you find your way over there. Canadian economy is already shit. Good luck with that retaliation, subsequent depression. Well, two people lost. Well, at least you're on the same road. Again, Waze, Truth Social. And if you were listening throughout, you'll realize that we actually came out better. That it is your great negotiator that got such a great deal. Got exactly what he had before. Now you can go through it again. I hold CAR monthly dividends without issue. They keep on saying they don't have a record of announcing a special. Oh, I already answered that. Yeah, it was a technical thing. You would not have even noticed it. You'll only notice it when you get your, I believe they're the T5s or the 5. I forget what they're called. I don't pay attention to them. The accountant does all that for me. But there's one form where CapREIT will tell you how much of your distribution was capital gain, how much was interest, how much was dividends, return to capital, etc. You'll see a big capital gain component on there of the $1.18 a share. Make sure that you adjust the average cost basis of your stock to reflect that you've already claimed that $1.18 in capital gain, so that your cost basis is lower than the $1.18. So if you can right click on the stock in Interactive Brokers, little menu comes down, one of it says adjust average cost basis, and then you can go in and adjust the average cost basis and it will adjust it for you. If you don't, you're going to pay tax on that capital gain twice. Okay, there we are. Listen, I know I've been harsh on Trump throughout this whole thing, but we have to see it in the light of the market, and he is easy to play. He is just not a good negotiator. He has one tool, and that's power. And that's all he uses is that one tool again and again. And he really doesn't have an understanding of the interconnections of the global financial system. He doesn't understand, I think, what unintended consequences are or what nonlinearities are, which makes him easy to play. He is rather easy to play. So I don't know that I would, be so proud of the negotiator in chief. He's not that good of a negotiator. He just happens to be sitting in the most powerful chair in the world. You could put an imbecile in that chair and they'll get things done, right? That's not the point. I played him easily. That's how easy he is. All right, that's it for the week.